Welcome to the Forge Your Future podcast, brought to you by East Central Educational Service Center, located in Newcastle, Indiana. We proudly provide service support and collaboration to 14 counties and 39 member districts.
At ECESC, we believe that students' strengths and interests are a blueprint to forging a future of success and impact, and we are on a journey to provide support and collaboration to schools as they implement career-connected learning for all students.
As part of this mission, we are here today to celebrate the amazing educators who help the students of East Central Indiana dream big dreams and achieve more than they thought possible.
Their work inspires us each day, and we want to lift up their stories and the stories of the students they are impacting and serving. Welcome to the Forge Your Future podcast, brought to you by East Central Educational Service Center, located in Newcastle, Indiana. We proudly provide service support in collaboration to 14 counties and 39 member districts. My name is Pat Haney, Director of East Central Educational Service Center, and I am joined today first by our co-host, Lindsay Lovern, an instructional specialist here at ECESC. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning.
And Lindsay and I are honored to be joined by our Shenandoah Superintendent, as well as ECESC Executive Board Member, Kyle Barrentine. Welcome, Kyle. Good morning. And how are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Sun's out. It's above zero, and we have a full day of school, so it's all good.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
We're here today to talk about Shenandoah and to lift up the great work that you all are doing over there in Henry County. So let's just start with a little bit of background about your district. Tell us a bit about, for those that don't know, where you're located, what your students are like, and what your district's all about.
Sure. Shenandoah School Corporation, we are right on State Road 36, and we are between Pendleton and Newcastle. We are obviously a very rural district. We're a consolidated district. We have 1,350 students here on our campus, and then we have another about 600 students who attend one of our two virtual schools, the Indiana Online Learning Academy. We actually have two schools. One's a K-5, the other one's 6-12. We're striving to be the premier school district in Indiana. And it's funny, it's to some degree, it's a little bit of a joke, but it's actually a very serious question is something will happen and we will ask ourselves, is that premier? And so we are constantly iterating around this definition of what does it mean to be premier? And our mission is to take our students where they are and lead them forward. And our tagline's really every student, every day. And we have built some systems around that so that we are not just some of the students, some of the days, but truly built systems to where we are trying to touch every student every day so that we can better fulfill our mission. We have 5 promises. The first one is Be Shenandoah, and really that's all about being a great representation of our school district, being the number one advocate if you work here, and always striving to be better. Service is our second promise, and that is service to each other. That is when you think about service, sometimes you think about hard work, and so it is. We talk about seeking joy in our work together. And so that's really kind of what service is all about, not only to each other, but to our families and to our students and to our school community. Our third promise is care. That again is for each other, for our students, for our equipment and our facilities. We want to care for all of those things. And again, we've built kind of systems and events around trying to be very intentional about showing that we care. Our fourth promise is innovate, develop, and grow. When we developed these promises as part of our strategic planning process, and we settled on innovate, develop, and grow, we knew this was going to be the most difficult promise for us to fulfill because growth requires people to be uncomfortable. And So we have tackled that head on. And again, we've put systems in place to ensure that we are continuing to innovate, develop, and grow. And then our fifth promise is win together. We have people who have roles all throughout our corporation. And if they don't do their role to the best of their ability, it's going to be very difficult for us to win. It's going to be very difficult for us to be premier. Here lately, a great example is our maintenance staff. Clearing the sidewalks, making sure that everything is safe and warm for our students to arrive. If they're not doing their job at a high level, it's going to be difficult for us to have school.
Thanks for walking through those five promises that really create and lay the foundation for the culture at Shenandoah. I wondered, if you would have maybe a example of a recent student success that really highlights the mission and the vision and those five promises. What would be top of mind of a student success that represents some of those pieces you just discussed?
Kind of a culminating success story is we have a Lilly Scholarship winner here at our high school. And this young man is just I think a really good example of someone who's taken advantage of everything that's been provided to him at Shenandoah. Obviously, he comes from a great family as well. Certainly not going to take all the credit. He's a really good example of what it means to be a Raider, what it means to be premier.
And that kind of is, the end of that student's K-12 journey there. Let's back up a step and talk about what K-12, starting with your littles and then on up at Shenandoah. Tell us about your instructional framework, your leadership framework. What are you doing in those areas to be premier?
I will say that I think the research still holds true on this, that the number one in-school factor on how much a kid learns is the teacher and the classroom. And so at Shenandoah, we believe that we're going to pour our resources into supporting the people who support our teachers and support our teachers so that they can better support our students. I feel like they're all connected. And so our framework here is that with our promise number 4 of innovate, develop, and grow, we really put that around saying, okay, how can we help the people who support our teachers? Who are those people? Well, at each building, we have an instructional leadership team. The instructional leadership team is made up of the principal, the dean or assistant principal, depending on their licensure. And that person also serves as our instructional coach. And I'll come back to that role in a minute. And then we have mentor teachers. So, for example, at our elementary, we have our principal, we have our dean and our instructional coach. And then we have 3 mentor teachers. Those 5 folks make up the instructional leadership team at Shenandoah Elementary School. They are all certified evaluators, and all 5 of them conduct classroom observations, providing feedback to teachers. And we come together once a month as a district instructional leadership team. We come together as a group of 16, and we innovate, develop, and grow once a month around what are we seeing in our learning walks? What are we seeing in our classroom observation? What does the data tell us? Where are we really doing well, and where do we need some more support? And then our PD is built around that data that we discover as we go throughout the course of the school year. So our PD is once a week. Every teacher participates in the PD. It's led by our dean and instructional coaches at each building. The PD is connected to instruction. How can we better meet the needs of our students? Again, back to our mission. Our evaluation plan is called Teacher Support and Growth System. I know evaluation, especially in Indiana, has a negative connotation, and we're trying to take that away from it. Too often, observations is looked as like an I gotcha, and we want it to be more like I got you. It is support. How can we help you help our students? our observation process begins with a pre-observation conference where the observer and the teacher go through the lesson, try to really talk through the purpose of the lesson, the flow of the lesson, and maybe most importantly, like, how are you going to know if this is a successful lesson or not based on the student work that you're going to collect? Um, and so that's a professional conversation around what we are actually hired to do, which is to teach. And then the observation takes place, and then after that is is really, I believe, our greatest form of professional development is that post observation conference, providing feedback to our teachers about what went really well, where's an area if I were to tweak one thing, or if I were to maybe engage students in a different way, then the impact is going to be greatest on student learning. And so they meet and have that conversation. Before that conversation, the teacher will provide student work samples, and to me, that's one of the big differentiators of our system, is that in a lot of previous schools where I've been, we would maybe do the post observation conference, but it was very sterile. There really wasn't a whole lot of meat to it, and we certainly didn't ask for evidence of student learning. And that's kind of, I believe, a big differentiator, and kind of one that it does force you to grow. It forces you to really think about, am I giving this assignment because I'm I just need time to get some things done, which is completely reasonable, or is this assignment actually going to provide me with information about moving our students forward? Um, so that's kind of our observation process. Our leadership uh, framework is one that we hope is developing leaders of our own. So as a mentor teacher, you stay in the classroom, but you are observing teachers. You are participating in professional development and learning a lot about leadership. I had mentioned our district leadership team meetings. We do a lot of instructional data, but I would tell you that if we meet for an hour and 15 minutes, which is what we meet for once a month, over half of that meeting is going to be connected to leadership development, school leadership development.
Mm-hmm.
So we might show a Nick Saban video, for example, and just the prompt is, what resonates with you about this video? And then we watch it. They take individual, things that resonate with them, and then we'll have them share with one of their colleagues, kind of privately, and then we'll share openly and talk about it. And it's really just a way for them to. It's no different than a student, right? It's that equitable access to where you're not going to be able to hide here. You're gonna have to uh, develop and grow, because we are talking about what resonated with you.
I so deeply believe that having and developing a culture where feedback is a focus, and is delivered effectively, and there's that collaborative environment that requires a lot of vulnerability, requires a lot of courage, and it requires both for the observer and for the teacher and educator in the classroom, um, to really be open to growth. Talk about any, like, as you've developed that culture and as you work on it, and it's one of those things that you've never arrived. You're always continuing to grow into that. What comes to mind is maybe a challenge, and what a next step at Shenandoah to continue to deepen that culture of development and growth.
I really think the challenge is maintaining the momentum that we have and not becoming complacent. We talk a lot in our leadership teams about the fact that most people are content with being average. This is like a Nick Sabanism, um, and um, and it's okay. There's a reason there's a term average, right? There's nothing wrong with being average. But I really believe that's why there are so many just average schools, because we are for the most part run by people who are content with being average. And it's really, really hard work because we're dealing with human beings who don't have a operating manual. They're all different, and that's adults and kids. And so I really feel like the greatest challenge is maintaining this high level of expectation that as good as we are, we can still get better. Um, we are finishing our third year here, and if you just look at iLearn scores, corporation wide, passing both on iLearn, we've increased our standing by 55 school corporations, in the last 2 years. And our emphasis has been on tier one first time instruction. And so we really feel like um, we are making a lot of progress there, and our teachers and our administrators and our support staff, everybody has rallied together and come together to say, we want to be premier. But I really believe the challenge is not getting complacent around the work that we've done, because it's really easy in January when you haven't had a normal day for a long time just to say, maybe we don't need to meet today because, well, it's a delay and it's cold outside.
Yep.
It's the time to double down and say, look, this is why we are where we are. We've got to continue to operate in this manner and do it at a high level day after day.
Okay. Thank you for sharing all of that. I really loved hearing about not only your instructional framework, but your leadership framework. I think the grow your own, something that's inspiring to me about that is the idea that you're placing a high value on the experience that your leaders are getting within your corporation, rather than trying to, have, like you said, sometimes in order to grow, people have to leave. But instead you're recognizing the experiences that they're getting with you, and focusing on developing your leaders. So that's amazing. And then kind of on that note, you do have a leadership transition coming up, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So after which will have been 32 years when I'm done, I'm going to retire as a practicing superintendent. In order to maintain that continuity and to continue this momentum that I've talked about, it just makes sense for us to promote from within. And so when I leave here on May 30th, which is a Friday, on June 2nd, Jake Weesey, who's my assistant superintendent, will officially become the superintendent. And so with our leadership framework, we have, as a superintendent and then assistant superintendent, and then we have building level principals, and then they have their leadership teams under that. If you can visualize that, I guess that org chart. So when a superintendent leaves, the general consensus is, well, everything we've done is going to be out the window because the new person's going to come in and they're going to want to do their own thing. So I believe there's a lot of angst when there's a change. And this could go down to when there's a new principal. When you have leadership changes, there's just some angst involved because what's going to be the new thing that comes on the horizon. And so what a succession plan does is we have collaboratively set this strategic plan to say this is where we want to go, and these are our objectives in getting there. I really think that a great indication of effective leadership is when after you're gone, things continue to go in a positive direction.
Another evidence of your leadership development process and systems at Shenandoah. Mr. Allen was one of our state principals of the year, recognized this year. So congratulations to him and Shenandoah for that as well. But really, Kyle, I know as you think about 32 years, I've known you for a long time. You've been a teacher, a coach, a building administrator, a district administrator. Just kind of as you get to the end, obviously, as you get to the end of that career and transitioning into a new chapter, just would love to hear kind of how you are reflecting on that and what really stands out to you in regards to your career and what advice might you have for those that are maybe closer to the beginning and the middle of their careers in education and working with kids?
Well, just a quick reflection. I would say uh, my career has been all about people. I think just showing up. A lot of times, just showing up, get involved. If you're a young teacher, it feels like it's so hard to get our young teachers to get involved at the school community level, and I think it's so much more rewarding. You get to know people better that way because sometimes teachers, when they're in school, they're focused on teaching and maybe they don't let their guard down a little bit. But man, at an extracurricular event, people will relax a little bit and you get to know them better and you get to know the feel of the community better. People get to know you. And so that's why I like one of my leadership standards is visibility and accessibility. And sometimes that can get you in trouble if you're too accessible. But I just think I think it's important. And then the final piece of advice is always, always seek joy, because just like bad things, if you're intentional about finding joy, you're going to
Yep.
find joy. And that's a lot better way to live than the other way.
I was thinking about been doing a deep dive into some Patrick Lencioni work and the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And as I was thinking about, one of the things that he talks about is healthy conflict and really really rich dialogue and dissenting opinions. And it just hit me while I was driving this week. It reminded me of that, the way our leadership team functioned when we were working together in Noblesville. And sometimes we would have 45, 50, maybe hour long arguments, discussions. But they were about curriculum and instruction and student learning and things that, that pushed our thinking. And in a lot of ways now in this role, and, it's something that I think about as a model of having that kind of rich, robust, honest discussion and dialogue and debate.
All right, we have got one last question for you to finish up today. It's what we ask all of our guests, and it is, what are you recommending right now? Tell us about something you'd be excited to recommend to others. It can be personal or professional.
Okay, so I am about to transition away from something that I've done from a really long time to something that I haven't done, and so I'm a big podcast listener. It's really leadership podcast driven, um, and a number of years ago, I stumbled upon a guy named Jesse Itzler. Jesse Itzler he is now a part owner of the Atlanta Hawks. He is married to gosh, I can't think of her name now, but she founded Spanx. And anyway, this guy is obviously a multi-millionaire, if not billionaire. And he lives a very, very interesting life. But he has this product called and I know this is probably a family program, but I'm just giving you the name of the product. It's called the Big Ass Calendar. And it is a calendar that is like 4 feet by 3 feet. And it has the every day of the year on the calendar. You can see the whole year all at once on this calendar. And there are a couple of components to it. But one is that you decide on, well, first he'll send these pictures with it, these stickers that are color coded. And so this is a way for you to plan your year so that you can see the entire year. If you have like a big vacation plan, that's a way for you to visually see where that's going to land. Whitney and I are going to Cancun for spring break. That puppy is on my calendar right now. But there's also this thing called a misogi, and that's supposed to be like this great big event, something that you've never done before, something that you are going to plan for the entire year. And so in September, mid-September of 25, two of my superintendent friends and I, one of them being George Philhauer, are going to Running Man, which is put on by Jesse Itzler. And it's a 3-day event, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Georgia. And so that's my misogi for this year. For other people, it might be I'm going to run a marathon or a half marathon, or it has nothing to do with fitness. And then there's a thing called Kevin's Rule. And Kevin's Rule is you want to do something every other month that is something you've never done before. It could be a 1-day event. It could be a long weekend. But you're planning all of these things. And so you can see it in your year. And it's just a way to enrich your life. If you think about it, if you do 6 new things every year, even, and you live for 10 more years, that's 60 new things. So how much more enriching will your life be? And so as I'm transitioning into this new phase of life, it really this calendar was something that I'm really inspired by, and I'm going to give it a try this year. And so, I mean, you can Google Jesse Itzler big ass calendar, and that's what's going to pop up. He has videos on how he explains all of this stuff. It's awesome. So anyway, that's my parting shot.
I love it. Very
Fantastic.
good, Kyle. And I'm gonna add a recommendation, especially as you get ready to transition into a new chapter. This was a gift, and I can hold it up there. This is a gift picture book called What the Road Said. It is an awesome book about transition and change and courage. And I'll leave you with the text of the last page. It says, "I said to the road, 'Where do you lead?' And the road said, 'Be a leader and find out.'" And so with that, we thank you for your leadership on our board, at Shenandoah Schools and our region, and most importantly, and thank you for joining us today to share a little bit about that work and to inspire others with those words.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys' leadership and your support for the schools, and not only East Central Indiana, but your impact goes beyond there. So thank you so much, and I look forward to continuing to see the great work that you guys do.
Excellent. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you for listening to the Forge Your Future podcast. We hope that this glimpse into the bright future of East Central Indiana inspires you and brings you hope.
We have the privilege to work with these future makers every day and want to share their stories throughout Indiana and beyond.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, please share it with your circle, and let's keep the conversation going.
You can connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on our website.
Until next time, remember that your strengths and interests are a blueprint to your future of success and impact.